I got quiet.
Okay. Yeah, get some return on your investment. Sure.
You ready, Vivica?
Crowd control.
All right, here we go. Hey, let's call the June 10th, 2026 meeting of the Rockbridge County Planning Commission to order. Roll call. Commission member Sabrizi.
Here.
Commission member Melvin.
Here.
Commission member Sandridge.
Here.
Commission member Whitmore.
Here.
Commission member Beebe is here as well. In addition to citizens attending the meeting in person, citizens have several options to view or participate in the Zoom meeting webinar as described below. We'll do our best to take citizen comment remotely. There are two options for citizens to offer comment. You can join the Rockbridge County Planning Commission Zoom webinar. The link is available on the county website to copy into the address line on your browser. To join by telephone, you may dial into one of the numbers listed on the county website. Webinar ID and password are there for your convenience. Citizens wishing to simply view the meeting live or after the fact can do so on the Rockbridge County Planning Commission YouTube channel, also available on the county website. If you wish to make a citizen comment as a Zoom meeting participant, you will use the raise your hand feature. You can press the raise hand button on the bottom of your Zoom window or press *9 if you're calling in by telephone. This time we'll proceed with the meeting. This is the citizen comment portion of the meeting. Are there any?
There's no one signed up to speak.
And remotely? No one remotely either. All righty. Minutes. Have you all had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any questions, comments, or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain
I make a motion to approve the minutes as is.
we have a motion to minutes to be approved. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? No nays, unanimous. Okay, staff board reports. Neil.
Yes, at its meeting on May 26, 2026, the Board of Supervisors approved the ordinance that moves the land development regulations to the county code. The TCO met on June the 3rd to review the renovating Rockbridge LLC storage building plan that was recommended by the Planning Commission for approval at the April 8th, 2026 meeting and approved by the Board of Supervisors at its meeting on April 27th. The BZA did not meet in May. The Community Development Committee met on May the 18th and discussed Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission action items, and their next meeting is on Monday, the 15th of June, this coming Monday.
Thank you, Neil. Item 5 was Matt and Kathy Daniel. They have withdrawn their application. So we'll move through that right forward to the.
Can they come back with that if, or is it, they'd have to put a new application in?
They would have put a new application because most likely it would be a substantial change from the current.
Well, I mean, if they decided to make the things that would allow it to pass,
which would
have to come and
give,
pay another fee and all that,
yeah,
they would,
they would,
even though
because
they didn't change anything.
well, because at that point they would have, or their goal would be to have a commercial certificate of occupancy, and currently they have a residential CO. So that would be the next step in the process to go back and redo the application.
Confusing me, but then why didn't they know that before? Why didn't we tell them that before they even submitted it? Wouldn't we have looked at that?
They submitted to us as a special exception permit, but the building department process is a separate process, much like VDOT and the health department. So they have those.
They probably hadn't completed that when they submitted the application.
Correct.
I thought one of the
Mhm.
interesting things in this is that we frequently don't have VDOT approval before we see the special exception. But in this case, they did have that.
But they didn't have the other ones. Yeah.
Right. But we normally don't have any of those things. So, but why would it be another application? Why would they have to put another application in then?
They would, most likely, they
It
would
doesn't matter. They're not-
rewrite
I-
and well, they would redo pictures because they have done some driveway change. They would need to put in some parking lot changes. So they would show some of that as well.
None of that was in the application though, in the first place. I don't see where the application would change at all, but we can have that discussion offline.
All right, here we go. Let's see. Item number 6, which is actually 5, County of Rockbridge Public Hearing Zoning Text Amendment ZTA to modify section 30-29, gardening and chickens of the county code to update the language associated with the keeping of chickens in the residential zoning district. Neil?
Yes, discussion of and public hearing for a zoning text amendment to modify chapter 30, article 5, section 29 of the Rockbridge County Code to amend the language pertaining to gardening and the keeping of chickens. Section 30, article 5, section 29 of the Rockbridge County Code pertains to gardening and chickens. The current regulation is as follows. Gardening and the keeping of up to 6 female chickens shall be exempt from zoning permit requirements in any district allowing residential uses, provided that such gardening and keeping of female chickens shall not be objectionable by reason of odor, dust, noise, pollution, soil erosion, sedimentation, or drainage. Roosters shall not be allowed. The minimum acreage requirement for keeping chickens shall be 1 acre, and any structure and pens erected for such purpose shall be located in the rear yard, 20 feet off any side or rear property lines. The chickens shall be required to be contained within a pen at all times. The current language is problematic due to the phrase any district allowing residential uses, as this includes the agricultural zoning districts. To update the information, staff has drafted the following language for the Planning Commission's consideration. And this would be section 30-29. Gardening and keeping of up to 6 female chickens shall be exempt from zoning permit requirements in any residential zoning district. Roosters shall not be allowed in the residential zoning districts. The minimum acreage requirement for keeping chickens in the residential zoning district shall be 1 acre, and any structures and pens erected for such purpose shall be located in the rear yard, 20 feet off any side or rear property lines. In the residential zoning district, the chickens in the residential zoning district shall be required to be contained within a pen at all times.
You want to try that one more time?
And so
Is that the best you can do? I'm sorry. Let's keep moving forward.
At its May 13th, 2026 meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed the draft language of the zoning text amendment. The commissioners discussed the need for amending the existing language to clarify its application only to the residential zoning districts. After consideration, the Planning Commission instructed staff to take the matter to public hearing at the June 10th meeting. And consider the information, receive public comment. If there's a consensus of the commission, make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Neil.
And so to clarify, in addition to the agenda item in your package that has the changes to the language, I also handed out an updated version of that section 30-29, which is also available on the table for anyone in the public. And it has just a little bit updated language that Chris had worked on to change since the package was posted. And so that is the separate sheet that I had handed out as well.
Thank you, Vivica.
And
Okay.
I'll just add
ahead.
to that if you want going over the changes from what is posted on the agenda package to what was handed out tonight. We're recommending essentially removing the word permit. Currently says shall be exempt. The first sentence shall be exempt from any zoning permit requirements. Again, we're recommending striking the word permit and just say zoning requirements in any residential zoning district. And then we're adding a period there and taking out uses, provided that such gardening and keeping of female chickens shall not be objectionable to reason of odor, dust, noise, pollution, soil erosion, sediment, and drainage. We sort of talked about that at last month's meeting, and that's going the interpretation of that as far as not objectionable could be problematic in the future. And so with the if it's a consensus of the planning commission, essentially we're saying that, you know, the garden itself would not be objectionable, and the 6 female chickens of essentially, you know, what would be objectionable to keeping of 6 female chickens and gardening in terms of odor, dust, noise, pollution, soil erosion, sediment, and drainage. So we're just recommending taking the second part of that, the first sentence out.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, there's, as far as, you know, it says gardening and chickens, but there's only one thing that really applies to gardening. No, there's nothing that applies to gardening. Is that correct? I mean, am I reading that right?
That's correct. I mean, other than being expressly exempt, that was the original
Okay,
purpose.
okay. So this, anybody can have a garden
Yes,
and it can be as close to the property line as you want it to be.
that's correct. Yes.
Now, the chickens, there's essentially no change for the R1 and R2, correct?
That is correct. This would pertain to all residential zoning districts. It would be unusual than R2 if you have a 1 acre lot, but it could happen.
Right, right. I'm saying, yeah, but by definition, it's R1 and R2.
That's correct. Yes. The way the ordinance is currently drafted. Yes, sir.
I mean, is there, well, okay, no, I'm good. Thanks.
All right, any additional discussion before we open the public hearing? Everybody good? All right, is there anybody physically present to speak? Doesn't appear so. Is there anybody online?
I do
Okay.
not see any hands raised.
Okay, we are going to close the public hearing unless anybody says otherwise. Public hearing is closed. No additional discussion. Would anybody?
One
Yeah.
question too. So this is just putting the keeping of chickens and gardening as a by right use in the residential districts. And of course, agriculture is by right already. So does it address conservation and industrial, or is that going down a rabbit hole we don't need to, obviously?
Well, and it's a good question because Mr. Dryden and I had that same question prior to last month's planning commission. So what this does is it provides for it in the residential zoning districts. It expressly provides for it in the residential zoning district. And so it does not do the same for business and industrial. However, with that being said, the business and industrial does not provide for agricultural, unlike the agricultural zones, if that answers your question.
Yep. No, thank you.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? I'll entertain a motion if it's out there.
Make a motion to take section 39-29 the proposed zoning tax amendment for garden and chicken to send to the Board of Supervisors.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Adam Sanders and a second by Jay Melvin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? There are no nays. Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is County of Rockbridge Public Hearing Zoning Text Amendment to modify Chapter Section 30-40 uses, 30-40C uses by special exception in the residential general R1 zoning district, and to modify Section 30-41C uses by special exception in the residential mixed R2 zoning district of the county code to provide for public utility service major portion of the definition as a use by special exception in the R1 and the R2 zoning districts. Staff presentation.
Yes, discussion of and public hearing for a zoning text amendment to modify Chapter 30, Article 6, Section 30-40C and Section 30-41C of the Rockbridge County Code to provide for the use of a public utility service major in the general residential R1 and mixed residential R2 zoning district. While under current ordinance, public utility service minor is a permitted use in the R1 and R2 zoning district, there are no provisions providing for a public utility service major in the R1 nor the R2 zoning districts. To limit the uses associated with a public utility service major in the R1 and R2 zoning district, staff has drafted the following language for the Planning Commission's consideration. And both of these paragraphs are in there in red, section 30-40C and section 30-41C are in there. At its May 13th, 2026 meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed the draft language of the zoning text amendment. The commissioners discussed the uses under the public utility definition that would be permitted as a use by special exception in the R1 and R2 zoning districts with the draft language. After consideration, the Planning Commission instructed staff to take the matter to public hearing at the June 10th, 2026 meeting. Considering the information provided, receive public comment. If there is a consensus of the commission, make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Neil. We'll go through the public here. Is there anybody physically present? There is not. And Vivica online?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. So there's another good last chance for discussion, gentlemen, or one more chance for discussion before we close the public hearing, or we close it first? Let's see. Any objections to closing the public hearing? Let's close the public hearing. No further comments. Any additional discussion? Anybody like to make a motion?
And I apologize, the language of the motion was failed to be included, but a motion could include a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that the zoning text amendment to modify Chapter 30, Article 5, Section 40C and 41C of the County Code to add the use of public utilities major portion of the definition as a use by special exception in the R1 residential general and R2 residential mixed zoning districts be approved.
Second.
So someone would need to make a motion with.
I
that
make a motion
language.
with what Vivica just read.
And Adam Sandridge makes a motion as presented by Vivica, and Jay Melvin seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries with a unanimous vote. Okay, at this point, we're going to have a zoning text amendment discussion. Neil or Chris, who's ever.
Yes. Review of recent changes to the Code of Virginia pertaining to solar facilities and discussion of a potential zoning text amendment to the solar ordinance. House Bill 711, which imposes restrictions on the local regulation of solar facilities, was approved by the governor on April 22nd, 2026, and is set to take effect on July 1, 2026. In response to the upcoming changes in state law, staff has drafted amendments to the existing land development regulations, Section 717, solar facilities, to comply with the updated regulations. The only outstanding item that staff has identified as the changes language associated with land disturbance activities, House Bill 711, 6 through 9. Additionally, staff has proposed modifications to the definitions of public utilities major and public utilities minor to clarify the applicability of the solar ordinance to ground-mounted facilities of 1 megawatt or more in coordination with the threshold set forth by House Bill 711. Recommendation, consider the information provided, and if there's a consensus of the commission, make a motion to take the zoning text amendment to public hearing at the July 8th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Neil. And to clarify one more time, it's mandated information, right? So we're basically overlaying the mandates into our solar ordinance, and it is what it is.
Correct. Mandated by Virginia House Bill 711,
Yeah.
Chapter 1068.
Okay. Discussion, gentlemen?
I'd just like to ask Chris, as we discussed some today, I don't need to go into any of the detail, but what you've marked up so far, And it's not all mandated. There's some things that actually was made tougher by this, right? The boundary is that was one thing, right? Than
Yeah,
what we have in the
it
regulation.
certainly the good news is when we went through the code, there were several many provisions that were already in our solar ordinance. With that being said, to address your question directly, in my opinion, it certainly took in some cases it took the flexibility away that the current ordinance had. One example I can provide for you is the buffer. It requires, amongst other things, that the planting, we cannot require anything over 3 feet at planting is what it is. But then it goes on to say that the buffer shall be between 25 and 50 feet. It goes on to say that let me pull it up so I can be more educated on it. It goes on to say that man-made and natural barriers shall be considered, but it still goes back to that original statement that that the buffers, the vegetative visual screening requirements shall be between 25 and 50 feet wide. It goes on to say, and shall allow for the consideration of pre-existing natural or man-made visual barriers. Even with those consideration of natural and man-made barriers, the way I interpret it, and there's not much wiggle room for interpretation, you still are going to have to require that 25 to 50 foot buffer. So in our current ordinance, we had a section in there under 717.17 number 2, and it stated it stated in locations where visual impact of the solar facility would be minimal due to existing vegetation, distance from property lines, and or topography, the standard buffer requirement may be reduced or eliminated. And there were some real life examples of where in Rockbridge County where they did a buffer wasn't needed for the various reasons stated in the ordinance. But the way I interpret the Code of Virginia is, again, the buffer or the vegetative visual screening requirements shall be between 25 and 50 feet wide. And so that's an excellent example of one, in my opinion, that took some of the flexibility we currently have away, which could have a large impact on projects in the county and Commonwealth of Virginia, obviously.
Was there anything? No, was there anything though, like setbacks or anything that actually the new law allowed it to, or created additional something less no?
I think it's certainly less restrictive. So I'll find that. So that's going to be under.
I'm talking about more restrictive.
More restricted. Let me find it. So our setbacks are under section. Let me find it here. If I beats me to it.
It's, in the amended number 1 from the amended 15.2 2288.8, paragraph number 1, setback distance shall be measured from the nearest edge of the equipment as follows: I, between 150 and 200 feet from the nearest point to the outer wall of existing occupied community buildings and dwellings and non-participating properties. Double I, between 50 and 100 feet from the outside edge of the roadbed of any, and not from the center line, from the outside edge of the roadbed, from any abutting, for any roads abutting the property. Triple I, for projects not greater than 25 megawatts, 50 feet from the edge, and for project greater than 25 megawatts, 100 feet from the edge of tidal wetlands or non-tidal wetlands, which doesn't apply to us, or from the top of banks of perennial streams. Chesapeake provision areas, for V, it says between 50 and 75 feet measured from the nearest shared property line for non-participating properties. So those they are in some areas, these are more restrictive than what the current ones are.
So
and it makes it consistent throughout the Commonwealth as opposed to different areas.
But I mean, we'll stick to I think when it's all said and done, we're the most restrictive that we can, based on what the regulation said before and what it'll say now.
Yeah, and then we do have some flexibility in that they give a range.
Yes.
And so we can propose it either to a certain number or to within the range. So we have the flexibility there. One of the things to keep in mind, what you just approved for the utilities major and minor in residential districts actually is also applicable to here in the sense that we approved, we have the right still to create ordinances restricting or limiting the ability to put ground mounted solar into residential areas. And without the adoption we just did right now, that quarter acre would go away, meaning that in a residential district, you could put anything up to one ground mounted solar, anything up to 1 megawatt. And so what we just adopted now was put that 20.25 acres, which we'll talk about how that has to go away now. That now will be applicable into residential where we have the right, is the only area where we have the right to create local zoning regulations on ground mounted solar. All the other places in agriculture, we'll talk about in a minute. We can continue to do it, but within limited scope. And for other zoning areas, commercial business, we can make no restrictions whatsoever on ground mounted solar. Anything below 1 megawatt. So it's now a by right use.
We had a lot of discussion about the height, and now it's the minimum height is 25
feet. Yeah, that's
and
true.
I guess it could go even higher if you want to graze giraffes there. It could go.
There's some flexibility in that one. Yeah. And there is some flexibility also in some joint agreement between the locality and the developer and the landowner on some of these areas. But yes, it is.
We had a lot.
The purpose behind this, and it came obviously from the industry, was to make it so some localities in Virginia have actually taken policies or even taken the steps to outlaw solar in their localities, but that's no longer can be done. You're required to allow it as a special exception, though you are not required to adopt it if it comes before you. However, you have to report everything to the SEC now, and we have to give a detailed reason. Well, we have to give our reasonings for rejecting a project, and that will be provided to the SEC, and that will be part of a public database for everyone else, which enables a developer to have make it an easier basis for them if adequate explanation is not given to sue to overturn any rejection. So this is well, there's some things are more restrictive. It is an industry friendly changes in the law, which we knew were coming. We've been talking about that for years. And so this is just one more step.
There were a couple of decent things in the decommissioning and the parties of interest that were, I thought, positive. So it's not all bad.
I mean, and not to be overly negative. I mean, it's they're just trying to standardize throughout the Commonwealth because there's such a diversity in opinions. So I understand why that's done, and they did preserve as of now, the localities do have the right to say no. And that has not changed.
All right, so the public hearing will be next month.
We do have to make that into a motion if y'all are willing. I will say, as far as the setbacks go, that the setbacks as interpreted by Code of Virginia are on that's the very last thing in the draft ordinance. You'll see the setbacks there that should have been in red. But what we have not done yet is incorporate those setbacks into the ordinance. And we'll work on that. They actually should be going into the rise setbacks would be going into the setback 717.12, I should say, the portion that's in the setback. So we'll continue to work on that. And then also as reported in the staff report, we're still working on the land disturbance, incorporating the comments or the requirements of land disturbance permit in the that's in the Code of Virginia. But not yet made it into not all of it, I should say, has made it into the draft changes of the solar ordinance. But if acceptable, I think we certainly will be ready, have a final draft copy, I should say, long before the July meeting. And so we would like to suggest to the Planning Commission, if y'all think we're ready for it, if y'all think you're ready for it, is to go ahead and make a motion to instruct staff to take this to public hearing at the July 8th, 2026 meeting.
Thank you, Chris. I think I did see an intent down there from Adam. Are you going to make a motion to take this to the?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to take the revised changes to the solar ordinance to the next meeting.
We have a second from David. We have a motion from Adam Sandridge and a second from David Whitmore. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. There are no nays. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Neil, or Chris, you want to talk about the priority list for zoning text
Yeah,
amendments?
absolutely. So for the last couple of planning commission for quite some time now, we've talked about zoning text amendments. Of course, we've gotten through a few of them this evening, or recommended a few of them for this evening. But we thought, I think it was Mr. Sabrizi last time that rightfully so said we should get a list going and start having some priority on the list. And so what staff has done, let me share my screen. Can you all see that?
It's loading. Yep.
All right,
Yes, we-
perfect. All right, so what Vivica has done is the House bills, the one on top as far as the effective dates, all of these, if I can highlight and you can see it, all of these Vivica has found through research as far as what Code of Virginia is changing. And so obviously tonight we're taking care of House Bill 7011 is one that we talked about tonight, but the other ones that are coming down the pipeline, so to speak, is Senate Bill 731 that pertains to accessory dwelling units. You will see this is the only one that's also on our other zoning and text amendments that we've talked about, accessory dwelling units. Essentially, why I put it on both of them is because House Bill, unlike the other ones that are in front of y'all, House Bill 531 is not effective until July 1st, 2027. Of course, the planned unit developments and accessory dwelling units are two items that the Economic Development Authority had come to the Planning Commission and suggested that we explore provisions in the zoning ordinance to allow for those uses. So it is interesting that now it's provided, state law provides for it. Long and the short of it is that I would like to get those zoning text amendments done for various reasons long before July 1st, 2027. Running down the list, there's something House Bill 189 that has to do with the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's effective July 1st. There's some changes to the wireless communication facilities or wireless facility modification that are also July 1st.
Those are effective July 1st, 26, as opposed to
2026. I'm sorry. The only one that's effective on July 1st, 2027 is the accessory dwelling units. So going back to the wireless facility modifications, there's some things we need to do in the solar ordinance, for the wireless facilities ordinance, both pertaining to this one and some outdated information that we have in there currently. There's another one about relating to small renewable energy projects that goes in effect July 1st. I need to get my feet under us on. There's some easy ones. The next one, House Bill 292 is going to be a fairly easy one. And that's just a fairly simple zoning text amendment that has to do with the makeup of the Ag Forest Overlay Committee, the Ag Forestal Advisory Committee now requires the Commissioner of Revenue, but state law change has said the Commissioner of Revenue or designee. And so that's something we're planning to bring next month easily enough. And then the other one, the last one, I should say, that's coming up on the legislative session that's been approved is House Bill 655. And that's going to be interesting because currently, and we've talked about this, I think at last month's meeting, currently the residential zoning district is the only zoning district that prohibits single wide manufactured homes. We do allow for double wide manufactured homes in the residential zoning district, but House Bill 655, as I currently read it, takes the ability to prohibit single wides in a residential zoning district. So I think that's going to be the actual ordinance, and this is how these things usually come up and get better. The actual ordinance to modify having single wides in there is going to be super easy. But also recently we've identified some deficiency in our manufactured home ordinance, essentially manufactured home parks, that could use some updating. So when we get to that particular one, that particular one being, the manufactured home portion of it, I think it's a good idea not only to do the easy fix of updating the code allowing, as as Code of Virginia requires, allowing for single wides in a residential zoning district, but also take that opportunity to have a review of the whole manufactured home ordinance that we have pertaining to manufactured home parks, if you will. And so those are all the ones. Those are all the ones that I think are going to be obviously on the very top of our priority list because they're going in effect on July 1st. We're going to be delinquent on all of them, I should say. But that sort of is what it is at this point. So the other zoning text amendments, if I'm going down the list here, the other zoning text amendments we've talked about in the past. Again, the ADUs and the PUDs by the EDA. Electronic message centers. Mr. Tyree has done some work on that, and Mr. Dryden has reviewed that, and so that's going to be that was instructed by the Board of Supervisors. So we haven't forgotten about that one, as reported a couple times in the past. It's been quite a few times, but you may recall that staff is recommending updating the definition and potential ordinance on special event venues. There's some room for improvements on there. Same thing with the outdoor shooting range. We're looking at revisiting the definition. It could be a definition update and a potential ordinance. And when I say that to go back on those two, definition, potential ordinance, it goes back to the work we did with the solar facilities, the one that has already been passed, and we're under, not the one we talked about this evening as far as potential changes, but in that particular case, we updated a definition and we have obviously a separate ordinance. And so when I'm talking about a definition update and a potential ordinance for special events and outdoor shooting ranges, that's what I want to make the distinction between, what we're talking about as far as a definition update and then potential ordinances. The last one we have for you is table 1 of the zoning ordinance. There's some room for interpretation there that I think with some slight modifications will be cleaner and easier, I should say, to interpret. So that's what we have. That's what we've talked about in the past. We certainly can talk about this evening. We can certainly talk about the priority list of what's titled as the other zoning text amendments. But knowing that because of the Code of Virginia change July 1st, 2026, in most cases, in the large majority of them, those would be our top. Those essentially have to be our top priority, I should say.
Chris, you need to focus on those. I mean, what you're saying is we need to get those done as quickly as possible. So that doesn't that kind of push back some of the other ones we want to do?
It does, but it does, and so we can have a discussion now or continue that discussion. Let the planning commission talks amongst themselves, talk with staff, and say, okay, once we get done with these state law changes, on the list of other zoning text amendments, which one do we want to tackle first, second, and third?
I got you. Okay. Gentlemen, thoughts? My thought is it's going to take them month or two to get through the upper section. Do we want to address the bottom ones? What do you think, boys? Comments?
Well, Chris, the one that's effective July 1st. I don't think that necessarily. We want it done, like you said, well in advance, but it doesn't have to be done next month.
Are you talking about the state mandated ones?
Chapter 895, Senate Bill 3-1. It says effective July 1st, 2027, not 2026.
Right. Yeah,
and I think there's a lot.
Not worried about that one.
There's a lot to that.
Yeah.
So that one, although I think is important, maybe is not urgent.
Yeah, I was thinking of the ones that are in 2026.
Yeah,
We just got to get those done, and we worry about 27 later.
So since that's on both of the lists, maybe what we could do is and that's what's brought up by the EDA, and I think there's a lot of merit to accessory dwelling units. I've had at least one supervisor reach out and say, hey, this is something that we need to do, just in passing conversation. With that being said, maybe the way to go is get through everything that's effective 2026, and then and then start with accessory dwelling units on the knowing it's coming in 2027, but really start putting some ink on paper on that particular one.
Okay.
Would it be too much to
And I think also electronic message centers is going to rise to the top as well. No, knowing that we were instructed by the supervisors to do that one. So maybe those would be the top two that we focus on.
And just for me to put, I think the EMC, just mention it again to Chris, is we are in violation of the Supreme Court cases with our
On the EMC?
rules. Yeah. So I think that would need to be that if I put my vote down as the top of the list of things to get taken care of. So if someone were to come to us today and ask to put an EMC out, our current code does not allow for that to be done, but our current code is not in compliance with Supreme Court rulings and other federal laws. So we might my position would be if I was asked to do that, I'd have to say we'd have to allow them to do it. So I'd rather have the EMC language in place.
Let's bump the EMC as quick as you can.
Yeah.
Sure.
With the workload that you've got to getting these other ones ready. So, yeah.
Would it be too much though? You mentioned this one with the committee membership. Could we also have you get that ready for next
Yeah,
meeting?
absolutely. I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah, that one, the Ag Forest Committee, absolutely. We can have that for discussion. And I do think, I mean,
Do we need to
yeah,
have a discussion? Is it something we need to really have a discussion about? Can you just bring it and then we'll vote on it?
well, you could, I mean, so historically what we've done, and this, I was getting ready to say this and then sort of trying to word it correctly. Historically, what we've done is allow for 1 month of discussion and then have 1 month of discussion. But things like this, I really don't know how beneficial it's going to be to have discussion. So John, Mr. Dryden might weigh on you on that one. Do you see any reason that we should not be taking that one to public hearing? And I have it. In fact, I think I have it right here. I do. And so currently it requires the Commissioner of Revenue or the local government chief of property assessment officer. And what has changed, the only thing that has changed is it now in italicized says, or a representative from his office. I do think it's unusual it says his office, but that's how code's written sometimes, even in 2026. So certainly, I mean, we could certainly be prepared to take that to public hearing. It would require a motion now, but yeah, we could certainly take that to public hearing. I don't see any reason. I mean, I will say historically what we've done is discussion on one agenda so people can say, hey, this is what coming up. Do I need to be part of this discussion or not? But something as simple like this, and it's required by state law, I don't know how much discussion is really going to be beneficial.
Yeah, and it'd be a two-step process if you want to do it right now. One is you'd actually say we were going to add this to our agenda because you have the right to add things to the agenda now. This is not a substantive issue, so it doesn't bother me that it's not on the agenda. You're just actually voting to bring it to a public hearing. So if it was, so you could now say that yes, we'd like to add the issue to the agenda to set this for public hearing, and then
Vivica, we're going to add that item to the agenda, tonight's agenda.
Yeah. So it's an amended agenda show up that way.
And what'd you say last, John?
And then that you would do just like you have make a motion to direct the staff to bring it to public hearing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll make it up, but I make a motion to bring House Bill 292, changed language that affects our current Ag and Forestal District Advisory Committee to public hearing at the next Planning Commission meeting.
Yeah, so
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
July Planning Commission meeting. Yeah.
July 8th. We have a motion by David Whitmore and a second by Adam Sandridge. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. There are no nays. Motion carries unanimously. So we will add that item to the next Planning Commission.
Is there any merit to adding, I know that's been brought up, energy storage thing?
Yeah, something, and that very well may be, and I apologize, I don't have my feet under me, but that very well may be the House Bill 508, because Mr. Dryden, if I recall correctly, there was a bill that was passed that solely pertained to battery storage, correct?
Now, 508 has actually changed, adding the definition of agrivoltaics to an existing law. So it's actually pretty straightforward, and we actually we have to adopt. We have very low flexibility in changing the definition for what it is. So that would be a fairly straightforward one. Now, the battery storage one, you're correct, but I was actually thinking about that walking down here today because the House Bill 7011 actually has some language about battery storage, which makes it seem like we can approve or not approve it and put in a special exception, while there was another one that came out that seemed to restrict us from being able to do it. But I didn't have time to look up that other one yet. And so I
Okay.
don't believe it's 508. I think 508 just introduces the definition of agrivoltaics. And that would be consistent with what's in our package right here. It just adds that definition. So 508 would be one that could be done fairly quickly, except for it is substantive. And whether people want to have some time to look over it or not, as opposed to changing the committees, there's really nothing to that at all. So, and I'm not prepared right now to express whether we can make any changes to the definition of agrivoltaics. Probably we can't, but
Let's
I
push
can
that
look at
forward.
Yeah, so that one might work better for the August 1st. And that, it seems like that'd be a short one, but it seems our first meeting in August, we could probably on the 8th, maybe bring hopefully more than one of these also to move over to that meeting.
For essentially public hearing, yes, because in
public
July,
hearing,
my goal is to have 2 of these for discussion and some language for y'all to review prior to the meeting in the package, obviously, put it on discussion. But my goal essentially is to have 2 of these, essentially 2 at the minimum, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Can
2
we
of
just-
these that go effect July 1st, 2026. That next month would be discussion in July, and then we hopefully will be ready for public hearing in August.
Can we add battery storage though, as far as underneath that, your list on the bottom?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I can make a note of that because I was thinking of that today, and I thought, well, if they ask me about it, I'm not gonna be able to answer that
No,
question.
I mean,
So I'll find
this
that
is
out.
now a list. It's
That is a
something that,
list.
you know,
Yeah.
when we don't have
Yes,
anything else to
absolutely.
do. Well,
Okay. We can let's think about this bottom list because you got your hands full for the next month or 2 months with these July 1st, 2026. But again, the electronic message center, if we're out of compliance, maybe bump that up somewhere fairly quick.
Yeah, and when Mr. Tyree
How
gets back.
close? Yeah, how close are you to that, Chris?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I know Mr. Jason Tyree's worked on it. I know John had sent it to John. I think John's had some time to at least review it. But I have not reviewed. I'll tell you, I have not reviewed the proposed
Yeah,
changes.
and we actually have some draft language in place, so Jason, myself, and Chris can discuss it next week and figure out how far along we are.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's I mean, the legal analysis is done. I think it's more of a wording of what the proper wording is, which.
Okay. All right. I don't think we need to organize this list right now because they have their hands full.
no, I think you're right. But at least we got a list. I'm glad that.
Absolutely, yeah. We got the. I'm
Appreciate
glad
that.
that y'all instruct
I
us
know
take
she did a lot of
the
research too.
the House Bill 292 out of there. So that will be an easy one. We can strike that off the list, and we'll get House Bill 711 rolling in a public hearing next month as well. So we will keep on going twos at a time, if not more.
Thank you. Chris, anything else? Gentlemen, anything else?
Not on my side. Yeah, not on my side.
All right. Board members, anybody? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? You have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? No nays. Keep saying-
Perfect. Thank you all for all your time.